Welcome to the Ball In podcast, where the ball is in our court. We got a special, very, very special episode and a special guest that comes with it. Blaine is here with us today for the NFL Draft Spectacular episode that we have. Very hyped, very happy that he's with us today. Unfortunately, Eric is not here. He died.
Rest in peace.
But yeah, Blaine, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Blaine. I'm filling in for the deceased Erica Caven. Rest in peace. He'll be back. We have a project that we're working on, but
He's
he'll be
on
back.
IR currently.
Yeah, he'll
He's
be
on
back.
IR. He'll be back.
Blaine, honestly, just like favorite sports team, how long you've been watching football, and why you love football. Just talk about that real quick.
As far as football goes, it's a very sad, lonely, depressed life. I'm a Browns fan. There's not much happiness. You guys both have had a taste of winning. I have not. But as far as college football, that's what Ohio State's for, you know? So I get to see my winning from them. And then as far as the rest of the sports, Cavaliers, any Cleveland team I follow.
Go Tribe.
And yeah, go Tribe. Like the Guardians, because that's what they're called now. But yeah.
That is great to hear. Honestly, I hope more success towards the Browns. I honestly don't really, bro. Shut up, please. Let me talk, man. Honestly, let's just get straight into it. The draft was really crazy, and honestly, the word that's always associated with the draft is unexpected. And definitely, a lot of the moves, decisions that were made by managements from a lot of the teams were head scratchers. A lot of very good moves, guys falling. That's typically how draft season goes, though. So it was a great draft. I was honestly very happy with how the draft went as a Seahawks fan. But I'll just get straight into it. Like the biggest draft moves at the top, at least to me, were the Texans picking Stroud and then immediately trading up for Will Anderson. Blaine, I'll start with you. Was the move for Will Anderson good, or should they have kept their picks for more depth, considering they have a lot of positions in need?
Yeah, in full support of when there's a guy. I'd say Will Anderson is the most bust proof guy in this draft class. Like as long as he stays healthy, he's going to come out of this draft the best player. The only reason he wasn't the number one pick is just positional value of quarterbacks, but good in run defense, good in pass rush, and I think when you look at the Deshaun Watson trade, the way you want to use those picks are if you can use them to get a guy like Will Anderson, someone as bust proof as him. I think that's the best way to go about it, rather than because the draft is a crapshoot. It really is. Nobody like knows whether or not a guy's going to succeed. But Will Anderson's the closest thing to that. So I think taking a guy that's as surefire as him is much better than using those picks as on multiple guys that who knows how good they're going to be. So
Yeah, I agree with Blaine. I do like the all-in mentality of the Texans. And really, Will Anderson, like you said, is probably one of the best prospects, probably the best prospect, um, in the draft this year. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not much else I can add to that. I was pretty spot on, but I really do like the Texans' approach going into the beginning of this draft.
Yeah, honestly, I would honestly have to agree with both of you guys. Like, just having two guys that can potentially be cornerstones on both sides of the ball is something that's very hard to find, especially in one draft. So to get those both, and if they hit on that, that would be a very good move and something that we'll look back on and say, wow, that was a really good move by the Texans. So that was really good to see. Some other things at the top, though. Three quarterbacks were selected in the top five. Another quarterback fell, which we'll talk about later. But Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and then Anthony Richardson at four. If you guys had to make a very early prediction, what quarterback do you think will have the best chance to succeed considering their situation? Blaine, you can start.
uh, I'm gonna say Bryce Young. It's not an exciting pick. Just as a prospect standpoint, he's just the best. Like if he had CJ Stroud's size and was 6'3", 210, there would be like the only knock on him is his size, really. And besides that, it's how he handles the pocket. And when it comes to like looking at how far he drops back, which gets him into pressure. That's only an issue because he's 5'10" on a good day. So the easy pick is Bryce Young. If I wanted to get really risky, I'd go out there and say I think who could be the best, Anthony Richardson. The physical tools, and then the fact that he's in that backfield with Jonathan Taylor. The offensive line isn't great, but they have good pieces. I mean, like Quentin Nelson's like the past 5 or so seasons he's been in the league is one of the best guards. He took a step back last year, but it's not like he's in a bad situation. He has good, like a decent amount of receivers there. Pittman, I could glaze, if you will, over Josh Downs, my wide receiver 3. Yeah, like I will go off on this for a very long.
What do you mean by glaze? What does that mean?
Like, yeah, it speaks for itself. He's my wide receiver 3 in this draft, and I'm just baffled of how far he fell. But when it comes down, like all 3 QBs, one of the trends was that they all got a receiver. The Panthers, they gave Bryce Young Jonathan Mingo, early second pick. Texans, Tank Dell, and then the Colts gave Anthony Richardson Josh Downs, and I think he's my favorite weapon out of those 3. I like Jonathan Mingo, but I had Josh Downs above him, so I'm gonna say who could be the best, Anthony Richardson.
Not to steal Blaine's pick again, but I'm also going with Bryce Young as the best quarterback. That's going to end up being the best quarterback most likely. I think, again, like Blaine said, I think the quarterback with the highest ceiling is going to be Anthony Richardson. Mostly due to the fact because he's such a raw talent and he's super physically very I don't know.
6'4".
He's got all the physical traits that you want in a quarterback. He's super athletic. His technique isn't there, but I also love the coaching staff that he's going into with Shane Steichen at the Colts, who were very important in developing Jalen Hurts last year and the year before that. And I think that could really work well in Anthony Richardson's favor. I don't think he could have fallen to a better team.
Yeah, honestly, I'm the same way. I'm very high on Anthony Richardson, but Bryce Young, to me, the thing is the coaching situation isn't as much of a factor, especially because Frank Reich's been in the league for a while, in my opinion, and he's notably known for being that quarterback guy. Not saying that Shane Steichen didn't do a great job with Jalen Hurts. We literally saw Jalen Hurts light up the league last year, but Bryce Young in that sense is a little bit less concerning for me just ahead of time right now. But if I had to make a decision, it would definitely be Anthony Richardson. I think just what Steichen did with Hurts last year, on top of just picking another receiver, and I think Michael Pittman is one of the more underrated receivers in the game. And Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor in the backfield is just very scary to me, so I'd have to pick him as well. On to other things, though. Honestly, a lot of players end up in situations that can be bad considering they're at the top and they're going to bad teams, or they could fall and end up in really good situations where good teams pick them up. Blaine, I'll start with you again. What was your favorite player and team situation of this first round?
I would say Anthony Richardson again, but just for the sake of keeping things fresh, I'm looking at the first round here. There's 3 guys that I really like where they fell. The first one is Tyree Wilson to the Raiders. He'll be behind Max Crosby, Chandler Jones. I really like that for him, and I love the athlete that Tyree Wilson is. The second one, I'd have to say Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's for me
stealing my picks.
Okay, fine. I'll go with Zay Flowers because Zay Flowers was my the way my wide receiver 1 was JSN, 2 was Zay Flowers, and 3 was Josh Downs. So I'll go with Zay Flowers. He's in a great wide receiver room, which came out of nowhere for the Ravens. Nobody was expecting that. You had OBJ, Bateman's healthy. I like that spot for him. And then my third guy, where'd he go? Oh, Christian Gonzalez to the Patriots. He's the perfect Bill Belichick receiver or cornerback, just like this incredibly fast, fluid guy. I think it would be really early, but I could see him being defensive player of the year just because I don't think he could have fallen to a better spot in the way that I know Bill Belichick's going to use him. The way he fell to 17 was just mind blowing to me. He was my cornerback too, but I still think he was a top 10 talent. So if I had to choose one guy, I would probably say Christian Gonzalez as best fit.
Yeah, so as you could tell by our reaction to that earlier. Jackson Smith-Njigba was the one guy I was thinking of. Really the consensus number one receiver, pretty much amongst a lot of people, amongst the majority of people, falling all the way to number 20 to the Seahawks, your Seattle Seahawks, Pavon's Seattle Seahawks, our Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, and not only that, falling to a team whose wide receiver room is also very good. Similar to Zay Flowers' situation, even though it's not nearly as good as the Seahawks receiver room is. They won't be having to rely on JSN to carry the load at times, and I think it's a really good situation for him to fall in. But Anthony Richardson obviously is the other really good situation, and a really good fit that I like in this draft.
I'm actually gonna go Jalen Carter. I think you guys would have to check me on this, but I feel like motor was also a little bit of an issue with him. And to me, when you have a stacked defensive line the way the Eagles do, where they're going to be rotating guys in and out, when you have a guy having limited reps when motor is an issue, I think that's going to be good for him. And also in terms of kind of staying out of the limelight, not having that big prospect kind of mentality by going at the top. I think just going into a winning room, going into a team with a lot of vets and a lot of guys he's familiar with, I think that'll be very good for him, especially considering the situation that he's in. But yeah, I think Jalen Carter and the rest of the Georgia guys that are there are going to really help him out and let him have a really good situation and hopefully flourish in his role as well. So I'm definitely going to go him. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of guys falling out of the first round, just falling in the first round, really wide receivers, like we were mentioning. I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba being the first receiver being picked at 20, which I thought was surprising. Honestly, Blaine, I'll go back to you. What were the biggest names that you thought fell out of the first round or fell in the first round that surprised you in this NFL draft?
I'd say the biggest one that fell, like the guy that I was like highest on that fell out would be Brian Branch. And I like where he fell to the Lions. It's a pretty loaded defensive back room. I know they traded away Jeff Okudah, but they still brought in like a ton of guys over this offseason. But I viewed him as a first round talent. He didn't necessarily test well at the combine. He ran like a 4.65, but if you watch him on tape, it's much faster than that. So I was very surprised to see him fall out of the first round and then fall into the middle of the second round. So I'd have to go Brian Branch to the Lions.
I had two. First one's pretty obvious. Joey Porter Jr. falling out of the first round, not falling too far, right to 32, the first pick of the second round. My second one was a guy that I touched on last episode, I believe. Michael Mayer going to the Raiders at pick number 35. Obviously, a guy that I would have liked for the Bengals. We'll get into that a little bit later, though. But yeah, those two guys are two guys that I think were pretty consensus like first round picks, at least between us. I know. I don't know. It's the draft, baby. That's what happens. That's how it goes. This always happens every year.
Yeah, honestly, like to me, it's Will Levis. I feel like that's an obvious pick in my opinion, because like a lot of people had him going high, and so like I know a lot of people are gonna say, well, that's the obvious choice, but I mean, Will Levis really, I did not expect him to fall as far as he did. Like usually when we see guys that are first round talents, especially he was rumored as high as top 5. I did not think he'd fall out of the first round. I think that's very I don't really know how to like say anything else than surprising. Really, it's just very unexpected. So I'd just have to say Will Levis. Yeah.
A guy that fell into the second round that I was expecting. I wasn't expecting him to go in the first round. I just wasn't expecting him to fall to the bottom of the second. Was O'Cyrus Torrence, the guard from Florida. He ended up in the Bills, which is a thievery for them because they got Kincaid in the first and O'Cyrus Torrence in the second. I think those are two first round talents. But then for the other part of your question was guys who went earlier that we weren't expecting. There were a few. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell. The Jets took Will McDonald, and that's the one I'm going to choose. I was high on Will McDonald. I wasn't 15th overall high on him. I think he'll be a great player, and I think the Jets could use him really well as far as like the edge rushers that they do have. But the earliest I pre-draft saw him going was like the Chiefs at 31, maybe the Eagles at 30. I did not have him going 15. And then the guy right after him as well, Emmanuel Forbes. The only like question mark is like how early he could go was there was a rumor that he'd go to the Bengals. And then the Commanders were like apparently in love with this guy because he can get pick sixes and whatnot. But there's
Pick six merchant.
yeah, like just looking at the box score doesn't tell the whole story. And when you're playing cornerback at 166 pounds, I don't know how long you'll be able to last in the NFL at that weight. So we'll see. I never am the guy to write somebody off or write these picks off. Cole Strange last year, like I knew because I don't remember what it was, but like it was like his first step or something about it that just fit like the scheme well, and he ended up being a great pick. But nobody saw it coming, so I'm never gonna like write a guy off because of how early they went, because usually it just means he either interviewed really well or he was a perfect scheme fit. But Will McDonald, Emmanuel Forbes, two guys I did not see going that early on in the first round at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Jahmyr Gibbs. Blaine touched on it. This is an obvious one. I think this might be a bit of a cop out for me, but Jahmyr Gibbs, another guy that I kind of was looking at wanting for the Bengals. Obviously going at 12 to the Lions, not even 18 to the Lions, at 12, just 4 picks after Bijan Robinson. It was probably the most shocking pick of the draft, I would think. I don't think anyone expected it. I definitely didn't expect this one. And then also the Lions celebrating as if, you know, they won a Super Bowl drafting Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And looking at it now, I don't know if there's another team in the first round that would have drafted a running back. So it's really tough. Again, Blaine said, you shouldn't write a guy off right when they get drafted, but initial thoughts, Jahmyr Gibbs was the one that immediately came to mind for me.
You would have thought they got Bryce Young. Wait,
yeah, they got
GM was like
they literally they got Barry Sanders back.
like,
yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I just have to agree. Like, it's so funny to just be like, oh no. Like, my question though is like, if Bijan fell, like, did they take him then? Like, were they just like set on taking a running back? Like,
I heard they really like Jahmyr Gibbs. That's all it was, really.
Yeah, so like, I don't know how that would have worked because yeah, I know Bijan is one of the best talents in this draft, but he could have fell farther than he did for sure. Like, that's just how running backs typically go. Like, they either go, high, because some teams really love those running backs, or they can go way lower. Like, it just depends on how teams think.
Do you think drafting Bijan that early kind of scared the Lions into picking Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th pick?
Yeah,
rather than the 18th. Like, that has to be what it is.
It definitely played a role. And the thing I didn't even think about till just now, Bijan not gone, if Bijan was a Lion.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Bijan behind that offensive line. But the thing about the Lions is Brad Holmes, their GM. I'm sure I pulled up who all the Lions drafted. They took Antoine Green, North Carolina receiver in the 7th round. I'm sure he had the exact same reaction. Like, he's just an electric GM, so I'm sure they were hugging and screaming in the war room when they selected him. Like, that's the GM he is. So, and John Dorsey, he's in that front office. So Browns legend. So yeah.
Yeah, just very, very like the Lions made this draft very interesting right after that Texans trade for me. Like, just you always look for that first team to make a move where you're like, what? It's just the head scratcher really. But yeah, like that was just very interesting to see. To build on that point though, winners and losers of the NFL draft, there are always teams that we predict ahead of time saying they are the losers or they made a lot of those head-scratching decisions that we were talking about. Blaine, I'll go back to you again. Just overall winners and losers of this NFL draft. And if you really had to pick a team, just pick a few and talk about it.
Or just pick one, so you don't steal.
No, I'm not going to pick one. I'm going to go through a list of teams that I love. This one I'm sure might not get the love that I think they will, but the Chargers, their first 3 picks, had they taken Zay Flowers instead of Quentin Johnston, I would have been in love with them. I'll just read it off. So Quentin Johnston in the first round, Tuli Tuipulotu, USC defensive end in the second round, and then Dayan Henley in the third. Just like Dayan Henley was another guy that I was in love with, and we'll talk about our grades for our own teams later, but I was very mad when the Browns passed on him. They ended up taking Cedric Tillman, which I'm fine with. But even their later picks, Jordan McFadden, I liked a lot. And then also bring in Darius Davis and Max Duggan. It's almost like TC, like the Los Angeles Horned Frogs. Like you literally have the whole like passing offense of TCU. So I don't know what that was about, but Chargers were one team that I thought were winners of this and like sneaky winners because I don't think they got like nearly enough love in the media over the last few days.
I'm gonna say this one, and I apologize to the Bengals faithful. I think the Steelers won this draft. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers won this draft. Really, their first 5 picks could have gone in, the first 2 or 3 rounds. I think. Broderick Jones, obviously first. That was a good pick for them, a good spot for him to land. Joey Porter, obviously in the second round. You got Keanu Benton from Wisconsin, the 18th pick in the second round. Darnell Washington, that's pretty, self-explanatory in the third round. And Nick Herbig from Wisconsin, the outside linebacker. Like, I hate to say it, this is one of the most, at least from the initial fresh, what we see right now, it is very impressive what the Steelers did, unfortunately. And yeah, it's tough scene.
Honestly, like I would go biased and say the teams at the top, like you could say the Texans or Seahawks or whatnot, but
Bengals.
like to be honest, like New England is a team that came to mind for me at the top with Gonzalez and White. Honestly, like the rest of the draft, like I won't know as well as these other guys. Okay, Marte Mapu, but a lot of guys that these two would know a lot better than me. But New England, I feel like, is one of the winners that you can proclaim at this draft. Also, I feel like Vegas, like the fact that Tyree Wilson can learn from Chandler Jones and Max Crosby and the picks they had later, which Blaine and Sammy can really talk about more than me. I feel like the Raiders and New England were those two teams for me.
I don't necessarily think the Raiders like blew this draft out the water, but they didn't fuck it up.
They definitely did not.
For one of the very few times they have not fucked it up. You get Tyree Wilson in the first, Michael Mayer in the second, Byron Young in the third, and then Trey Tucker. You kind of fucked that up. But like you didn't fuck up the first 3 picks. You did good.
Hey.
You did good. So I'm gonna refrain from saying what I was about to say. I was gonna make a Henry Ruggs joke, but or Damon Arnett. Like the list goes on. Like they just cannot draft guys.
Clelin Ferrell.
Let's
go with it.
Jonathan Abrams. They just draft guys that don't find a way to be on the field and then dominate on the field.
They're in court.
Some dominated off the field. So. Yeah, but I just want to give them kudos for not fucking it up. I don't think they're a winner. Another winner that I really liked,
was impressive,
a little bit sneaky. The New York Football Giants. Yeah. Deontay Banks in the first round. Great corner.
I like that a lot.
JMS in the second. Hyatt in the third. Eric Gray, and then the rest is. I'll be completely honest. I pay a lot of attention to this, but most of these guys I actually haven't heard of. But the first 3 picks are very good. You get a true outside receiver in Hyatt. Like I don't know if I'm not high on him, but out of the guys that were there, I think Hyatt could be something special with the speed. Hopefully Wan'Dale Robinson heals up fast. His ACL is good for next season, but the offense isn't bad, and especially with John Michael Schmitz at center now, the interior of the offensive line was bad. So you fix that, and you add secondary help. So I think the Giants were another winner of this draft.
Another player to follow a little bit, John Michael Schmitz. Maybe not a first-round prospect, but definitely, I think late second round for him is a pretty good pick for the Giants.
Yeah, I know we talked winners, but like, would you guys just elaborate upon the biggest losers that you guys had for this draft too? Blaine, you can start again.
I have a hard time picking out losers, for the sole fact that I try to be as open-minded as possible whenever about the way teams go about picks. If I had to choose a team that I dislike the way they went about the draft, probably the Packers. I don't like the way I'm not against Lucas Van Ness. Like I think he could be good, but just the fact that he didn't even start in college. I understand it's how Iowa like runs their defense with like the seniority. I'm not a huge fan of Lucas Van Ness at 13. I would have thought it would be nice had they gotten Jackson Smith and Jigba. I didn't view Jaden Reed as like a second round prospect. And then Sean Clifford in the 5th. I think that's worth bringing up.
Yeah.
How the fuck did he sneak into the 5th round?
How did
How did Sean Clifford sneak into the draft,
How did he
let
get
alone the
drafted?
5th round?
I
I
wouldn't have got my undrafted free agent.
Sean Clifford should donate half of
That'd
his
be a good
salary to
pick.
Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy gave that man a job because if it wasn't for Brock Purdy, Sean Clifford would be in accounting right now.
He would be farming.
He would be long gone.
Unemployed.
He might even be playing for the Wong Dong Titans. Like
How?
I don't, yeah,
How?
but I don't dislike the Packers draft. This is like very untraditional, but I did like that they were like the Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. I like those picks. Like it's weird, but I like weird,
little silly.
like in the NFL draft. So, I had a hard time picking out losers. As far as like what I saw on Twitter, a lot of people didn't like the Cowboys picks. I was high on Mozzie Smith.
I agree.
I was not high on Luke Schoonmaker.
I agree. Micah
Michael.
Parsons.
Oh, Parsons. He was high on Mozzie?
He was.
Yeah,
Very excited.
yeah, because their run defense wasn't good.
Hey, please.
But
Please, I want this
I don't think Luke Schoon is it Schoon? I think it was Schoon.
I don't know.
Schoon or Schoonmaker. I didn't view him as a second round talent. So as far as losers, I'd say maybe the Packers, maybe the
Undrafted name.
Cowboys, but I also think the Bears could have done more with what they had.
That's true.
I don't
That's
like
fair.
they just like drafted
That's
D
fair.
lineman after D lineman after D lineman. This is like it seemed
That's
like a aimless like
Just kind
just
of.
throwing darts at the board.
I did like the
hoping it
Darnell Wright
lands.
pick though. The Darnell Wright pick in the first.
Oh,
round
I
of
love the
Bears.
Darnell Wright pick.
It's a great
Yeah.
pick, I think. Yeah, there's a lot of picks here and a lot of. There's what 3 defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Interesting strategy. I was going to touch on the lines a little bit. We talked about them earlier. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell in the first round. Already not the best of starts, as it seems. Sam Laporta in the second round, though, I didn't hate. It's a little early, but at that point, I think that's okay. Brian Branch, very good pick, I think, in the second round. That was pretty good. Hendon Hooker, who we'll see. You know, he's a bit older, coming off a knee injury, but could sit behind Goff. Maybe, we'll have to see. And third round, late third round, 5th round, and the 7th round. So
Yeah. Now the funny thing about the Lions is if you reorganize their draft, so it was like Brian Branch first at 12,
yeah,
Gibbs at 18, Campbell at the second, like start of the second, Laporta in the mid second. That's a really good draft.
That's a great draft.
That's a
actually.
great draft.
It looks like
It was just
draft.
like they in the end, this is a very good draft for the Lions. They just like went about it in the worst way possible, and somehow they
That's
got
fair.
bailed out by guys falling that shouldn't have fallen.
That's fair.
But Hendon Hooker, like, I don't know if that's the right pick for them because Goff, he does not have a high ceiling. He has a low floor and a low ceiling, or he has a high floor, low ceiling. I don't think he's like the developmental guy you would want behind Goff. So that
He's a
one
bit too
confused
old
me
for
a
that,
little
I
bit as
think.
well. Yeah.
How much how much older is he than Goff though? Because wasn't there a thing like he's 3 years older than Goff or 3 years younger than Goff? I mean, so
I mean, to me though, with the Hooker pick too, like you have very like similar guys in my opinion, where like they're not gonna really break open the game, but you know what you're getting from them. And when you put them in a good situation, like I thought this was a very good situation for Hooker. Like you cannot, that's undeniably like what it is. It's just he's in a really good situation, especially with his health. He can sit for a year. Goff will play very good football like he did last year. But like,
Hopefully.
yeah, like it's just two like-minded players, I guess, and just like you know what you're gonna get from them. So that's where I was like head scratching. And then also with the Lions, like Blaine was saying, like it was more of like a mismanagement of where they were in the draft, and like that's what was kind of disappointing to see. Like the fact that they had those picks and that's who they picked at each pick, more so than the actual players that they got.
The football gods were on their side.
they were
The
they most
football
of them were.
gods were on the line.
As they have been quite often
They're like,
recently.
you
somehow.
fucked that up. They're like, we want to see you win, and so we're gonna make sure nobody drafts Brian Branch, and we'll give him to you here. But you fucked it up.
They've
So
been
you fucked
lucky.
it up,
They've
but
been-
we're saving you.
They've been unlucky for so many years. I think we can.
Yeah.
that
Need
one
them to
slide.
start doing that
Let
to
them
my
slide.
Browns.
No.
And then one last team I want to go on a tangent about winners. The Indianapolis Colts. They just took athlete after athlete after athlete. I'll run through who all they drafted. Anthony Richardson in the first, Julius Brents, tall, fast corner in the second, Josh Downs in the third, and then Blake Freeland, big athletic offensive tackle from BYU, very raw. And then they stopped the slide of Adetomiwa Adebawore. I killed that.
Wow.
One try.
Job.
That
was a bad high five.
Athlete. Who knows if he's going to get kicked inside, play defensive end. But either way, he ran like a 4.4 at 280, which is insane. And then Darius Rush and Daniel Scott fell.
I didn't know he ran a 4.4.
Yeah, he ran a 4.4. It's 280. I'm pulling up his RAS.
Here we go. All right. Yeah, no, I agree with the Colts pick. They had a lot of draft capital this season, and I think they made the most of pretty much every pick.
Boom, 9.84. A 9.84. And the only reason it's not a 10 is because he's only 6'2". If you put that man in a body of somebody who is 6'4", he is a 10.00. I was high on him. I wanted the Browns to take him. And they didn't. I get it. Maybe there's health. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, he's an athlete.
Did you talk about Josh Downs?
No. Adetomiwa Adebawore.
No, I'm saying, did you talk about Josh Downs, though?
I mentioned I was G-wording over him, and then that got taken. It wasn't taken out of context, but bad word.
What does glazing mean, though?
G-word? Bro, you said it.
I didn't want to say it again. You said this about Russell Westbrook. I'm not going to go on this tangent either, but you went on a whole...
Am I the only one that hasn't glazed?
Bro, you got Joe Burrow.
That's not Joe Burrow. This is actually this is true though. It's my boy right here.
Exactly. Either way,
I'm gonna get that 5 when he gets.
Since it's been requested, Josh Downs tangent, small guy.
You don't need to make this too long.
Small guy. No, I'll make it long. He's what, like 5?
Time. Oh my goodness.
5'10". He's not going to be a playmaker. He's not going to go catch the ball. Great hands. He plays the way he plays. You think he's 6'4". He's just like going to be such a consistent, always there guy for Anthony Richardson, and I love that duo. And I'm going to stack them in fantasy, and they're going to carry me. I'm going to be a happy man, and I'm going to be a happy man, and I'm happy for Josh Downs.
Pain Hub Part 4.
No, this year's different. I'm drafting the right guys this year in fantasy. I figured it out. I'm just going to draft the guys that play well, and it's going to work. Think about it. Every year, I just draft someone that doesn't play well. I'm going to stop doing that. Just draft the right guys. It makes too much sense.
It's a good strategy.
But yeah, Josh Downs and the Indianapolis Colts, that is a good football team. A lot of athletes. And look, I stopped talking about like all the players after the 4th round. They keep going. Darius Rush, Daniel Scott, Will Mallory. So he's going to steal. Will Mallory's going to steal some catches from Jelani Woods, like 6'8" freak.
Cox.
Mo Cox is he's on his way out. And then in the 7th round, Jake Witt. Do you know who Jake Witt is?
Wed? No.
Okay. Jake Witt. This guy didn't play football for like until last year.
Wed.
Raw.
What?
Just raw. Just beast. Mauler. Northern Michigan. He's worth taking a 7th rounder. And Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones is another good guy.
What?
So I'm going on my tangents here about the Indianapolis Colts, but they killed it. Bunch of just like freak athletes, ton of potential in this draft class. And if they can coach them up right, like this could, like, I'm going to scale back, but this could be a very, very good draft class if like all these guys reach their full potential. So
when you talk about a guy that Blaine was just obsessing over for the whole 1st round and the 2nd round, obviously, until he got picked, was Josh Downs. Or the 3rd round, yeah, sorry. He was very sad when he got picked before the Browns. No, it was after the Browns pick.
No. I didn't want him to go to the Browns because he's another slot receiver, but I wanted him in a good situation. That's where he ended up.
It was the Texans you were really sad
about. Yeah, I wanted him
to
go to the Texans because then I could root for CJ Stroud and Josh Downs, but they took Tank Dell, who's like 160 pounds, same as Emmanuel Forbes. He's going to meet Tremaine Edmonds in the middle and turn into dust, so who knows what's going to happen with him. Like, we'll see what happens with Tank Dell. His production's off the charts, but he's 160 pounds. Like, he could pass away on the football if he gets hit hard. Like, I'm just saying, like, Roquan Smith meets that man in the middle of the field. You put Tank Dell on a slant, okay? Picture this. He's running across the middle of the field. Boom! Roquan's like who knows what's gonna happen to him? He's 160 pounds. Like, I'm a stick.
We're talking about the Colts, right?
No. Now that this is the Texans, they took Tank Dell.
I get that, but like we're going a bit of a tangent. I feel like.
Yeah. You said you said I already went on a tangent.
I talked about
So my tangent is going on.
Josh Downs.
End of the day, Josh Downs, good football player. He's gonna be another Amon-Ra St. Brown. Where it's like, how did he fall? Amon-Ra, the sun god. I butchered it. I don't care. The sun god. Josh Downs, good football player.
Oh my god, a lot of heart overhead.
Best of luck to Tank Dell, by the way. Best of luck to Tank Dell, by the way. We hope for his success, of course.
Okay, I got to calm down. But what a great tangent from Blaine there. Honestly, I feel like this is something that I've always thought about the draft. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this, but like, how much does scheme fit compared to how good a player actually is in terms of tape and what they did in college really determine where a player goes, if that makes sense? Like, honestly, just elaborate upon that, because like, I feel like that's something that I don't really know about when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, I think the thing that always ends up becoming such a big difference between the mock drafts and the actual drafts is scheme and interviews, which most people don't actually know. Neither do I. Like what truly a team might be looking for in a scheme. Like, you can like narrow down their team needs into like defensive tackle, but like there's so many different blends of a defensive tackle. Like for the Browns, like I was really high on Adetomiwa Adebawore. I butchered it that time. Yeah. 6'2", 280.
Should have quit while you were ahead.
And then instead we go and we take Siaki Ika, who is 6'3" and 350 pounds. Like they both play defensive tackle, but they're totally different guys. And when you look at the draft last year, Cole Strange went so high, and it wasn't a bad pick. It didn't end up being a bad pick. So that's why I'm never like this is what I was talking about earlier. You can't ever be too crucial on a pick because scheme fit plays a much bigger role than any of us know, as well as like how well they interview and how well they match a culture. Because it's not Madden where it's like you create a roster and these guys go out and play. It's like they're real people, and they have to mesh in the locker room as well. So interviews and scheme play like a much bigger role than we actually know about.
I think a lot of it is just the philosophy of the team in the front office. You know, I think it varies, obviously. And depending on the position, like you said, I think it doesn't matter the same amount from position to position, if that makes sense. Like, I think, and this is obviously extreme, I'm going to say something obvious. I think the scheme fit with, like, a quarterback and a coach is going to be different from the scheme with, like, a punter to, like, you know, the special teams coaches. That's obviously the extremes, that's obvious. But just stuff like that, I think it all kind of comes down to what the front office and the coaching staff's philosophy is when it pertains to that. But Blaine, yeah, I do agree with what you said as well.
What's it called? Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah,
football has a Dunning-Kruger effect.
Don't know what that is.
It's like I don't know anything. I know everything. And then you go down, and then it's like, oh shit, I know nothing. Here, I'll pull up a photo of it just for reference.
Actually, okay, Eric, if you're watching this, Eric, please
just edit a photo of
put a photo of it right. Effect. Put it right over Pavon's face.
There
right
you go.
Here.
See, look.
Just put it over Pavon's face, and we'll
just quick look. It's like you know everything. Then you're like, I don't know anything. I purposely have cut myself off of the peak of Mount Stupid because I know once I go past it and get deep into the weeds of film, I couldn't tell you what a 4i is or like all those random little tangents about like specific things with D tackles. I couldn't tell you. So Dunning-Kruger effect is real. The Dunning-Kruger effect is real.
Honestly, I did just want to talk about this because we didn't really cover it, but like, how did you guys think your teams did? I'm obviously very happy. If you guys see the clip, by the way, I do want to explain myself. The problem with the Witherspoon pick in real time for me was that I have so much of like emotion going into that pick in terms of, oh my god, the D line was so bad, and Jalen Carter was there, and I was like, just take him, like, right? Like, we did not have an interior D line whatsoever. We got rid of our whole interior D line. If you look at the moves we made in the offseason, and I'm like, Jalen Carter's there, just take him. He's there, just take him. But then it ends up being Witherspoon. I understand it now, especially with the kind of coach that Pete Carroll is. The teams that he's won with, it makes sense that he got that DB to pair alongside Tariq Woolen. And oh my goodness, that secondary, if we can get any good D-line play with the guys that we've picked up, that secondary might be one of the best, if not the best unit in the NFL next year. I mean, you're looking at 3 safeties that can do a lot of things on the football field. You're talking about Tariq Woolen, Witherspoon, Trey Brown, who was also hurt for a little bit. I feel like he can provide some really good plays. And then also Mike Jackson, who I feel like is a very solid cornerback for. So you're looking at a very well-rounded secondary. It really is just going to come down to that D line when you're playing teams like San Francisco, when you're playing teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. If Seattle really wants to contend in the NFC, it's going to come down to stopping the run. So just really looking at how they're going to perform there. But yeah, very happy with how the Seattle's draft went. Blaine, what do you think of the Browns draft?
There's only so much you can do when your first pick comes in the 3rd round. No first, no second. I graded my picks. So the first one was Cedric Tillman. My initial reaction, I was pretty confused because I was like, if we're gonna take a wide receiver, we're gonna take somebody super fast. And when the Giants traded right above us, I knew like they were taking Jalen Hyatt. So I gave the Cedric Tillman pick an A minus. I was like, after like actually looking into it, I'm really high on it. It was super productive in 2021, and then he got hurt 2022. But he fits what we're gonna need within the next few seasons. Because who knows, we'll be able to bring back both Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I gave that pick an A minus. The Siaki Ika pick, I gave it a B minus because it is a need. The run defense was really bad, and if I was going off of just like personal bias, I'd probably give this pick just like a straight C. But the way that Jim Schwartz like I could tell this was a defensive coordinator's pick because he was just like I saw a video and he was just like smiling from ear to ear, not tooth to tooth, by the way, ear to ear. So it's helpful to give the defensive coordinator guys that they want. And then we took DeJuan Jones. What do they call him? Baby Thanos.
Baby Thanos.
Baby Thanos. Yeah.
Because of how big he is?
6'8", 380 or whatever. Yeah. So and we have a great offensive line coach. So there's a lot that can be done with him. I mean, the potential's
kind of him.
What?
Especially what pick you got him with.
Yeah, but yeah, great value in the 4th round for when he was being there. Mox had him in the 1st, so gave that a B. The only reason it wasn't higher is because it wasn't like a direct need, but I understand best player available. And then Isaiah McGuire, edge from Missouri. I give this one a B plus just because the whole offseason, this was a name I heard over and over again about the guy that the Browns were interested in. So to be able to go out and get it, and edge was a need. I gave it a B plus. Then DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Right.
I only gave this one a C plus, just because of the way the board was. If I was to grade this pick as just straight up, we took Dorian Thompson Robinson. Like, I love the guy. And he was probably like my QB5 behind like Levis / Hooker, since Levis was not that good. So I gave it a C plus just because we had other needs, linebacker and safety, and we didn't address it here. But I'm still really excited for him to be a Cleveland Brown. The next one, Cameron Mitchell, DB Northwestern. I gave it a C minus. I did not like this pick. Honestly, like my first thought is they just like it's going to be helpful in negotiating contracts like a couple years down the road for Greg Newsome. Like, hey, we brought your buddy from Northwestern because we honestly don't need Cameron Mitchell. We don't need him. We already have 5 good cornerbacks. And we brought in a 6th who's like part cornerback, part special teamer. So I just didn't see him fitting as a scheme. This was way too early for him anyways. And then lastly, Luke Wypler. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name.
You will know.
Well, no. Ohio State center.
Maybe.
I give it a B. I would have been higher on it as well. It's very similar to DeJuan Jones, but we already have 3 centers on the roster. We took one in the draft last year. We brought in who's the guy from the Seahawks we brought back? Ethan Pochich. We brought him back. We brought him back, and we just signed to a multi-year deal. So I understood this was the best player available pick, but it just didn't make much sense to me because we didn't address linebacker or safety in this draft. But I'm still happy with the draft, and I'm not going to be too upset about it because there's only so much you can do. I just would have liked them to focus more on team needs rather than best player available. So I'll be content, and how they play on the football field is really going to end up dictating things. So,
and I'll keep this short, a little shorter. I'll go through all the picks, but I'll just kind of give you a little tiny rundown. The Bengals picking Myles Murphy at 28. I think incredible value. One of the best value picks I think the Bengals got in this draft. A consensus top 18-ish player, I think, on a lot of big boards. a great pass rusher, is something that we really needed. And we got him in a great spot. Didn't have to move for him. Myles Murphy was one of the guys that I thought before the draft started that we could really, that if he was there, I would really, really like to get him. Yeah, that's a great pick there. DJ Turner at pick 60, round 2. I gave the Myles Murphy an A grade, by the way. Round 2, DJ Turner out of Michigan, the cornerback. Sorry, I gave a B plus. I like the speed. I like the athleticism. Pairing him back with Dax Hill, I'm a fan of that pick. The Jordan Battle pick, round 3, pick 95. Trading down 3 picks with the Chiefs, we basically got a free 6th rounder because I believe we would have taken Battle anyway at 92. I gave that an A minus. I think he's got pretty good value. It's a pretty good value pick at round 3. He was great at Alabama, especially going with a safety class or a safety group like the Bengals that is very young. It's great to add another guy in there. Round 4 was, in my opinion, the worst pick from the Bengals, but that's not necessarily like a bad thing because they were all, I think, pretty good picks. Charlie Jones out of Purdue had one really good season. The one year he was at Purdue, he went from Buffalo to Iowa, was at Iowa for two seasons, and then went to Purdue, and he got 110 receptions for 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns, which obviously is insanely good. Great receiver. I think he will be a good depth guy in that locker room, hopefully. But yeah, I gave that one a B minus range. Round 5, I really liked this pick at 163, running back Chase Brown. I wanted to grab a running back at some point in this draft, and I really like Chase Brown. He just does not go down after the first. He breaks tackles like as well as almost anyone. This is a tough guy. He will not go down. Has some fumble issues, but we can clean those up. Great pass blocker. I love that pick a lot. I gave it a B plus. Now this the 6th round pick at 206. I'm gonna try and be careful here. Andre Iosivas. Iosivas, I think.
A dog.
He's a dog. I'll tell you, he's 6'4", I believe. A big target. I think we'll throw him at punt returner. Honestly, I do. He'll be good. Another depth guy. I think he might be a better receiver than Charlie Jones potentially. I'm getting him 2 rounds later. Round 6, pick 217, punter Brad Robbins. I'm a big fan of this guy. Eric, if you're watching this right now, please put a picture of Brad Robbins over Pavon's face right here.
Bro, why me?
He is a he is a absolute legend of a human being. He looks awesome. He's great at kicking balls. And I'm very excited for that player. Round 7, I gave that a B, by the way, that punter. It's just a punter. Round 7, pick 246, DJ Ivey. Gonna be honest, don't know much about him, but adds another body to the cornerback room out of Miami. I gave that one a B. Total overall for the Bengals, I gave it a B plus draft. I don't know really what the consensus will be on that, but I believe that is a fair assessment. I think it's a pretty fair, unbiased assessment in my opinion. But yeah, that's what I got.
Honestly, it's just great to see. I know by you guys, like, just talking about it, like, the draft does get me very excited for the NFL season. To be completely honest with you, as a pure NBA fan, I could not get the NBA playoffs off my mind once Seattle's picks were done. Blaine, before I get you up out of here, I know you have been watching NBA quite a bit this year. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot with this too. When we're recording this, it's a Saturday. We'll get this to you guys on a Monday. Suns Nuggets is tonight, by the way. I do got the Nuggets winning that series. Maybe it might change when we record. But
on Wednesday,
when we talk about the NBA playoffs, there's a lot of things that can happen. But oh my goodness. But yeah, just honestly, just finals predictions. Like just pick off the top of your head.
My very original at the start of the playoffs was Suns Celtics, I believe.
Same, brother.
Suns Celtics.
That was a better high five.
I don't know how I still feel about it. Like the Suns' lack of a bench has showed, and that's who I also had winning it all. Now,
same, brother.
Now, if Jimmy Butler, if Himothy Butler, if Himmy Buckets.
You said Himmy Butler.
I know.
Why'd you say Himothy?
exaggeration. I'm adding on. I was building up here, and you just like.
I'm sorry. I'll step
But if
out.
Jimmy Butler, I know it's not sustainable. But if that man averages 50 for the rest of the playoffs, the Heat are in good shit. I'm not gonna say the Heat are gonna win the finals because I'm not that stupid.
If he averages 50, they might.
If he averages 50, they very well could. But if I had to choose one team to win, I don't want to have to like go out on a team, but I'll stick with the Suns. I don't think, yeah, it's not a very confident answer, but I'm
Clearly.
gonna stick with the Suns. Suns Celtics.
You sticking with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The last few games in the Celtics Hawks series didn't scare you?
It's not ideal. They haven't looked amazing. But they have the experience. They went there last year, and we'll see.
I'll save my thoughts for the Wednesday episode.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Obviously excited about the NBA playoffs as an NBA guy, but we'll save those thoughts. I'll constrain myself, if you will, and save that for the next episode. But this episode was great. I hope you guys liked it as well. That being said, I'll send the ball out to you guys and pass it away.
Smash the like button, subscribe. Subscribe, follow on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, support the Ball In boys. Put the ball in, and let's go.
We'll potentially see more Blaine in the future too, so just look out for that. We could say this is his auditioning, if you will. But yeah, let us know. Honestly, very hyped.
What do you guys
I'm
think?
glad we could get, bro. With that being said, it's
Wrap
over,
it up.
man. We love you guys. Like Blaine said, like,
Love
comment,
you.
subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.
Booyah!
Eric, I hope you enjoy editing this. This is a clip for you in the future.